We are now moving on to item 48. It is I-19-09-016, the reorganization plan of Pacific Gas and Electric Company. This item is a proposed decision approving the conditions, the PG&E's plan of reorganization pursuant to the requirements of AB 1054. This is I am the assigned commissioner and will present. Before I get into the specifics of what this proposed decision does, I want to reflect on what we have heard today from the public and how we have arrived where we are. As we heard in public comment today, and as we have heard numerous times since the 2017 and the 2018 wildfires, many people and communities are angry, frustrated, and finished with PG&E. At times, I have felt the same. The devastation of losing a loved one because of the company's negligence is unfathomable. I have thought about those lives and the wildfire victims and those homes and businesses that were lost every day since joining the commission. I think about the PG&E's responsibility to them to do better, and my responsibility to them as a regulator to drive PG&E to do far better. There are many who doubt and distrust PG&E's ability to change in the ways that are needed. This distrust has deep roots that have been born out of PG&E's inability to prioritize the people it serves and its incessant but unfulfilled promises to do better tomorrow. PG&E is in bankruptcy because of years of mismanagement and failure to prioritize its customers' safety, a failure that caused catastrophic destruction and death. PG&E's years of neglecting to adequately invest in its electrical system resulted in wildfires that took more than 100 people's lives and upended the lives of tens of thousands more. Investor-owned utilities have a special privilege in being unique providers of essential services to the public. With that privilege comes the responsibility to provide safe, reliable, and affordable service to customers. PG has consistently failed to demonstrate that it adequately understands this privilege and responsibility. It must correct its mistakes and upgrade its infrastructure and serve its customers in a way it hasn't ever before. With the current public, economic, and social disruptions to Californians' lives caused by COVID-19 pandemic, and with so many people working and learning from home, it is more critical than ever that PG&E live up to its compact. Part of the first step in delivering on this compact and in transforming to a changed company is taking responsibilities for its failings. PG&E, however, when given the opportunity, has consistently failed to take accountability for its safety failings or demonstrate that it truly appreciates the level of change needed to transform itself into a different company. In considering PG&E's proposed plan of reorganization, the areas at the front of my mind have been around how we impose accountability upon a company whose leadership seems exceptionally unwilling or unable to take responsibilities for its failings, and how we impose changes to get the kind of leadership that has the vision to change this company into the type of company the people of California deserve. Today's proposed decision puts in place requirements for additional accountability and mandates leadership change and revised management structure. But only so much can be imposed on this company externally by its regulator. We have to put the guideposts. We have put the guideposts in place. But PG&E needs to own its own transformation. It needs to transform into a well-run company that has at its core the safety, caring, and knowledge of its customers. This takes leadership with a vision and discipline to transform the company into a model of good corporate citizenship, where Main Street is far more important than Wall Street. Leadership with a vision see and achieve a future where the customers applaud the reliable, affordable, clean energy they receive for the bills they pay. Leadership whose goal is not merely to improve its safety culture, but to make it the best-run utility in this country. And this transformed company must move from one that is held tightly in the grip of continual correction of failures to one that is a model company that is respected for how it serves its customers and its communities. In today's proposed decision, we deploy a set of regulatory tools to help drive this company forward, but PG&E needs to embrace the need for fundamental change. Turning to the elements of the proposed decision. The proposed decision makes a number of important determinations, but the main elements I would like to highlight today are the ones that I believe go most to the heart of what is sorely needed at PG&E: leadership change and accountability. Through this proposed decision, we are requiring a transformed board of directors and leadership structure. Specifically, the proposed decision requires a reorientation of the structure of PG&E's management and board of directors to create further safety accountability and better representation of PG&E's customers. The board that is in place today will not be the board that is going to change this company. PG&E needs a new board of directors that better represents and understands its customers and the importance and value of safety. The proposed decision puts requirements in place to change the board makeup to align with this objective. The proposed decision also requires regional restructuring of the company into local operating regions. This shift to local operating regions is intended to change PG&E's management culture to bring management closer to its customers so that the company better reflects the diverse values and the needs of the people it services across a large part of this state. The transition to local operating regions will start immediately. The proposed decision would have PG&E submit its regional restructuring plan to the Commission by June 30 of this year. And in that plan, PG&E will need to address how its regional restructuring plan will improve safety and will impact its most vulnerable customers. The proposed decision also puts in place new accountability tools to ensure PG&E is held accountable for maintaining a culture and a company that delivers on its safety and reliability responsibilities. Specifically, the proposed decision establishes a six-step enhanced oversight enforcement process that will escalate consequences upon PG&E if it fails to improve its safety performance. The six-step oversight process provides clear guidelines on what safety failings would move PG&E into the enhanced oversight process and provides clear guidelines on what PG&E would need to do to demonstrate progress toward curing any failure. It also provides clear expectations on the steps for revoking PG&E's authority to operate if needed. The proposed decision also puts in place an ongoing independent third-party safety monitor who reports to the CPUC to oversee PG&E after its current criminal probation ends, and requires the development of comprehensive metrics to monitor and measure PG&E's safety and operations ongoing. In addition to the conditions I just described, which are intended to drive PG&E to fundamentally change the way it operates as a company, the proposed decision also makes determination to protect ratepayers. It requires PG&E to honor its commitment not to burden ratepayers with the cost of the pre-2019 fires, but rather propose a securitization that must be rate neutral to ratepayers to refinance those costs with rate revenue as long as it provides shareholder-backed offsets. And it makes a determination that PG&E's plan of reorganization is rate neutral on average to PG&E's ratepayers, which is vital to ensuring ratepayers are not held responsible for the cost of PG&E's exit from bankruptcy, and is a critical determination under AB 1054 in order for PG&E to be eligible to participate in the going forward state wildfire fund. I wanted to also identify that this proposed decision does not mark the end of our work to focus on ensuring PG&E makes significant improvements in how it's prioritized customers and safety, Work will be ongoing in our safety culture proceeding and other new proceedings to further develop safety and operational metrics against PG&E's performance will be judged, as well as to refine its executive compensation structures. As I stated earlier, this is a company that has consistently failed to recognize the privilege and responsibility that comes with being a unique provider of utility services, and is a company that, in my opinion, has yet to demonstrate it understands that the path to being a successful company is to focus on its customers. I hope PG&E can demonstrate that it understands as much as it emerges from bankruptcy, and I, for one, intend to keep a watchful eye for the evidence that it does. But watchful eyes are not enough. It needs to come from within the company, and we at the regulatory body need to hold PG&E accountable. A lot remains to be seen, but I feel confident that today's decision puts requirements in place to put PG&E on the track of transformation and to focus on providing safe, reliable, and affordable service to its customers and to achieve our state's clean energy goals. I understand that there will be some who disagree with or feel frustrated with the proposed decision. But today's decision is an important milestone to achieving the completion of the bankruptcy process and the compensation of the wildfire victims impacted by the wildfires of 2017 and 2018. Before I turn to my fellow commissioners for comments, I want to thank the group of extremely talented and committed public servants who worked on this proceeding. I want to thank the Administrative Law Judge, Peter Allen, to whom I extend my sincere admiration and gratitude for expertly managing this complex case and aggressive timeline. It has truly been a pleasure to work with you on this complicated case, and I thank you for your rigor and your collaborative spirit. I want to particularly thank my Bagley-Keene partner, Commissioner Rechtschaffen, and his Chief of Staff, Sean Simon, who have been insightful and cooperative partners, and indeed have been true partners in every way, early mornings to late nights, weekends, and holidays. I can't thank you enough for all the hard work and support and learning you have given me. I could not imagine having worked through many of these difficult issues without you. The Commission's General Counsel, Heracles Aguilar, and her excellent team of Jeff Drivensdale and Candace Maury and Brandon Gersel. The energy have been magnificent. I cannot thank them enough. Again, many hours spent together with Heracles, Jeff, and Candace, and I thank them profusely. The Energy Division, including Deputy Executive Director Ed Randolph and his staff, Dorothy Duda, Michael Coughlin, Kelsey Coing, and the Safety Policy Division, including Deputy Executive Director Rachel Peterson and her staff. I also would like to thank my fellow commissioners, Commissioner Randolph, Commissioner Guzman, Aceves, and Commissioner Shiroma, for their deep engagement in this proceeding through every milestone. Much of your thinking is here and presented in this PD, and I can't thank you enough for your incredibly helpful and insightful guidance. I finally would like to thank my Chief of Staff, Shannon O'Rourke, and my former Chief of Staff, James Ralph, who contributed to so much at the foundation of this proceeding and eventually the outcome of the proposed decision. With that, my fellow commissioners, I ask for your support for item 48. Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Rechtschaffen.
Thank you very much, President Batjer. Thank you for your kind words and for your steadfast and exemplary leadership. You didn't have a chance to blink when you came to the PUC before this bankruptcy proceeding started, and you handled it with unbelievable grace and skill. and we all are benefiting from that. And I want to thank you for your very eloquent introduction, setting the context here, the enormous stakes, and the extraordinary challenges given PG&E's past record. I won't repeat what you said. I do want to highlight a few things. And as you noted, and as we saw today, the comments from the public are testament to the powerful impact that utilities have on our lives. And the voices we heard today reflect many other Californians, many other customers. And to those folks who commented, I want to say we've consistently heard you over the past 18 months at our many meetings around the state, our virtual meetings in San Francisco, calling for change, sharing your ideas, your frustrations, your anger, your concerns, and your devastating losses. And they are devastating, as President Batjer said. Probably for me, the most heart-rending meeting we had was last October in Reading, where we heard from those devastated by the Camp Fire, who also experienced impacts from the power shutoff. That meeting is particularly haunting for me. Having said that, bankruptcies are almost always messy and complicated, and by definition, resolved in ways that do not satisfy all the parties. And this decision is no different. It's not perfect from any stakeholder's perspective. I support it because it provides changes needed to achieve a reformed PG&E, and it does achieve a number of critically important objectives that President Batjer talked about: protecting ratepayers, compensating wildfire victims, improving PG&E safety, enhancing the PUC's oversight and enforcement, and also providing a path for PG&E's financial viability. And of overriding importance, until this bankruptcy is resolved, no victims can receive compensation. So what we do here is critically important for moving forward. Probably the most important thing that the public and legislators want to know, and rightly so, is whether the PG&E that emerges from bankruptcy will be different than the prior company that President Batjer so eloquently described, and whether PG&E indeed will be safer and more reliable and better focused on consumer welfare. They also want to know how our oversight and regulation is going to be different so that PG&E will be more accountable. In the past, we heard that repeatedly today and in other meetings. The bankruptcy order includes a number of elements that are designed to change the culture and operations of the company. And it's also very important to keep in mind that these steps are only one of a series of actions that we are taking to improve PG&E's safety performance and enhance our oversight of the company. Those will be ongoing, as President Batjer mentioned. Some of the key elements of this order include, as President Batjer said, a new board structure, and that includes a minimum of half of board members being residents of California, with a preference for those living in PG&E's service territory. And then of critical importance is this new enhanced oversight and enforcement scheme. And this puts at risk PG&E's license to operate if it causes fires like it did in 2017 or 2018, or otherwise performs poorly. This process, it puts structure around the authority we already have to review and, if necessary, revoke a license or condition a license that PG&E has. It also gives some predictability to PG&E, some transparency to the public. I think it dovetails well with Governor Newsom's Plan B legislation, and it sends a very strong signal to PG&E that a CPCN, the license to operate and to serve customers, is a privilege. It's a privilege, and it's not a right. It's taken away if PG&E doesn't perform well. The decision establishes an outside independent safety monitor that will that will start once the independent federal monitor leaves and done with his work, and that will be a seamless process. There are new operational safety metrics, as President Batjer mentioned. I want to mention a couple of other things. The decision establishes a strong linkage between the compensation that executives earn and safety performance, as well as a link between compensation and customer engagement and satisfaction. And that link will be based on clear metrics. This includes a couple of items worth highlighting. One is that a significant portion of compensation will be linked to long-term performance and deferred for at least 3 years. There's also a presumption in the compensation scheme that a material portion of compensation shall be withheld if PG&E's ignition is the source of a catastrophic wildfire. And there are also provisions that allow for the cancellation of severance pay in the event that PG&E is convicted of a felony related to health and safety or financial misconduct. Quite simply, if PG&E is convicted of a felony, it's a horrible year for the utility, and executives should not walk away with handsome bonuses in that situation. Finally, the plan, as President Batjer noted, includes the requirement for PG&E to create local operating regions. I want to note that as part of this plan, the decision requires PG&E to discuss how the plan for regionalization will impact low-income and disadvantaged communities, along with hard-to-reach customers and communities that have been subjected to wildfire and or power shutoff. And then outside the bankruptcy order, as I mentioned, there are numerous other efforts underway to change PG&E safety performance. We heard some of that in our earlier discussion about the new PSPS guidelines. There are much more stringent wildfire mitigation measures that we've been working on, including the adoption of a maturity matrix model. As part of the order resolving the 2017 and 2018 wildfires, PG&E is required to conduct a root cause analysis each of the fires it caused and to fund necessary system enhancements identified by those analyses. Also, we have an ongoing safety culture proceeding for PG&E that looks at a broad set of systemic issues. I just want to take one moment to express my view that as part of the safety culture, we should continue to explore the concept of linking PG&E's earnings to its performance as judged by safety and operational metrics. Admittedly, this is complex, takes time to do well, but I think it's worth pursuing and will send another strong signal that things are not business as usual for PG&E going forward. Performance-based regulation can be an important tool to promote improved utility performance, including in the area of safety. I would just note there's a growing interest in this concept in recent years. Legislation has been passed in at least 10 other states directing PUCs to explore this concept. And our neighbors, Colorado, Nevada, and Hawaii, all have open dockets on this. Some states, such as Illinois and Ohio, have already adopted performance-based incentives that include explicit links to safety. There are many other aspects of the decision. As you've heard, I want to reemphasize just one more protection of ratepayers. As President Batjer notes, the decision ensures ratepayers will not bear increased costs as a result of the bankruptcy. About half of PG&E's existing debt will be refinanced at lower interest rates, and that means a cost savings to ratepayers. PG&E's professional fees related to the bankruptcy, as well as those of the CPUC, will be paid by shareholders and not ratepayers. And PG&E's securitization application to recover wildfire costs, which is not part of this bankruptcy plan, also will be rate neutral. PG&E has committed that they have committed that all costs of securitization will be offset. I want to respond finally to a comment we received from the PUC's Disadvantaged Communities Advisory Board requesting that it be engaged in any future activities to reorganize PG&E. We're hoping this reorganization is successful. We don't have to go down that path, but I will say that if and when we do, there will be many opportunities for public engagement that will include the Disadvantaged Communities Advisory Group. I want to close with a note of gratitude for PG&E's thousands of employees for staying committed to their work through this time of great uncertainty and even public contempt. It's been very difficult. We've all greatly benefited for this. For PG&E's leadership, as President Batjer said, this is the moment to step up. This is the time for PG&E to emerge from bankruptcy that must be reborn with safety as its top priority. Your future depends on it, really. There's nothing more or less than that at stake. I want to echo my great appreciation to the staff that President Batjer mentioned, the legal staff, Energy Division, ALJ, Alan, President Batjer, and her staff. And I do want to take the privilege of the floor just to thank one of the unsung heroes, although President Batjer sang praise, which is Sean Simon, my chief of staff, who really was borrowed by the commission to become the administrative point person for this bankruptcy decision and all other bankruptcy-related issues. And he's just done an extraordinary job. He's incredibly organized, super proactive, always thinking ahead, extremely conscientious. He took whatever people asked him to do, whenever, whatever, in whatever form, he did it. And on top of that, his kindness and thoughtfulness throughout are really extraordinary. So I even though you've already thanked him, I couldn't just thanking him again. And I do thank you for your work across the board, President Batjer, and your strong leadership throughout. Thank you.
Commissioner Rechtschaffen, thank you very much. There is not enough thanks in the world for Sean, so thank you for underscoring that. And so many, we start naming again and we'll get in trouble, because I want to underscore that when James Ralph left my staff, Sean picked up an awful lot of work, and I was borrowing Sean too, not only just the commissioner, but I too. So thanks so much, so many times. Okay, Commissioner Randolph.
All right. First, let me thank you, President Batjer and Commissioner Rechtschaffen, for putting so much work into this proceeding, hours and hours and hours. And I cannot say how much I respect your careful diligence, thoroughness, and diplomacy in dealing with this really difficult task. I'd like to thank all of the parties and members of the public who put time and effort into participating in this proceeding and commenting on the issues. As Commissioner Rechtschaffen noted, over the last 18 to 24 months, we have heard a lot of very difficult stories and concerns from all over California, and we really do listen to those concerns and take them to heart and keep them in mind as we're trying to weigh these difficult decisions. To my mind, the two most important features of this decision are getting the fire victims compensated as quickly as possible and ensuring that we have a robust escalating enforcement process that, as Commissioner Rechtschaffen noted, puts a framework around our existing authority to review and potentially revoke the company's right to operate. So having a structure and metrics around that is a key step forward that will help us in changing fundamentally the oversight of the company. And then I just want to talk a little bit about some of the discussion we heard today from the commenters. As Gina Barragan stated very succinctly, we need a different PG&E. I think this decision moves us in that direction, and as President Batjer said, we absolutely need the company to step up. But the other thing we heard from commenters was that they want to see not just a different PG&E, but also a different energy system. And so I want to focus my comments for a moment on the fact that moving PG&E out of bankruptcy and having it continue to exist as a private company in no way takes us away from the state's climate change goals. Our regulatory levers and authority to meet our climate goals go far beyond just the RPS. All load-serving entities, including investor-owned utilities, CCAs, are required to meet the state's greenhouse gas reduction targets and the SB 100 clean energy goals. And there's absolutely nothing in this decision that absolves PG&E of that responsibility. The decision protects the long-standing clean energy contracts that this commission ordered PG&E to execute many years ago that built the foundation for today's significant energy sector reductions in GHG emissions. It was important that this proceeding protect the integrity of those contracts to ensure confidence in the renewable energy market, and that has been achieved. And there are many other ways in which this commission is working on ensuring that we meet those goals and that we have the cleanest energy system possible. We have everything from our microgrid proceeding to self-generation incentive proceeding, many ways, our electric vehicle work that we are doing, all of which push all of our IOUs, not just PG&E, to make steps towards a new clean energy economy. And there is no reason to think that that effort will not continue as a result of this decision. In fact, recently PG&E applied for more significant investments in clean energy resources, including a proposed 423 megawatts of battery storage to meet last year's IRP procurement decision. And unusual for a natural gas company in the state, PG&E has actually expressed willingness to have conversations to think carefully about what our transition away from a fossil fuel natural gas distribution system will look like in the future. It is our goal in all of our work here at the Commission and elsewhere in state government that all load-serving entities, whether investor-owned or publicly owned, do their share to continue to lead this state and this nation in creating a clean energy grid, and we are not stepping away from that commitment whatsoever. So again, thank you, President Batjer, Commissioner Rechtschaffen. I also wanted to take a moment to thank former President Picker. Some of the sort of enforcement concepts and ideas that went into this decision came from the Safety Culture OII that he spearheaded, and this decision definitely reflects some of his careful thinking. So I just wanted to thank him for that. So thank you so much, and I'll definitely be supporting the decision.
Thank you, Commissioner Randolph, and thank you so much for mentioning President Picker. I was remiss in not doing that. He had a huge imprimatur on much of what we were able to accomplish. So thank you very much for recognizing him. I appreciate that. Commissioner Guzman Aceves?
Thank you, President Batjer, and thank you, Commissioner Rechtschaffen, for all your work on this. I wanted to just if you can indulge me for a little bit and kind of walking through my thinking about this decision and how I saw this coming about a year and a half ago. For me, it was very clear that the impetus for PG&E to file for bankruptcy in the first place was their lack of leadership to manage all of the liability claims that they had acquired because of the 2017 and 2018 fires. And they chose the route of bankruptcy in order to leverage their existence to reduce all of these immense liabilities. Their strategy to just have the tool of bankruptcy to reduce their liabilities quickly drew speculators from many companies that we didn't want to see, including a possibility of a complete takeover by hedge funds that we were very concerned about. There were also many other more positive proposals that came forward, and in our deliberations, we heard these arguments, such as the ones that we heard today, to simply pool PG&E's CPCN allow it to sunset or some version of that. Yet always in the back of this limitation was the ability to really have the authority to establish a replacement agency of any sort. I personally hoped that there would be a possible public buyer that would come forward. At one point, there was speculation that another utility would potentially buy them out. Then there were arguments or some proposals that PG&E should be municipal, statewide, and we heard many of those comments today. We were even presented by regional municipalization proposals from South California Irrigation District, Nevada Irrigation District, Valley Clean Energy, and the city and county. And then there were also efforts that we heard of to turn PG&E into a public benefit mutual corporation, proposed by Mayor Ricardo of San Jose and 26 other elected officials. There was also the proposal that the state take over, and many of today's public comments with Flame Our Power Coalition, Democratic Socialists of America, Youth versus Apocalypse, and many others proposed the state takeover. Just last week, David Freeman's final opinion piece that was published in the Fact East after his death even recommended separating the transmission assets from PG&E and forming them as a public entity. And as you know, there are many other possibilities in between those that certainly more specific reforms to the ones you highlighted today in the organization plan. Unfortunately, for various reasons, but primarily due to the large climate realities we're dealing with and the decades of underinvestment, that these massive liabilities really limited development, at least in a timely way for now, many of these alternatives. And nothing other than the bondholders' proposal materialized in bankruptcy. And then, as you have mentioned, certainly the largest reason for me is that the victims, the survivors, buyers, voted to approve this bankruptcy in order to receive their payment. So in addition to this conundrum of not having any other real buyers and having buyer survivors vote for this reorganization, we also lack some real statutory authority. And not to mention our regulatory compact was also not ready for such a fundamental failure of the utility. The regulatory structure, as you mentioned, President Batjer, compact with the monopoly utility, does not yet include the scenario that the private utility model itself was flawed. It wasn't like the last bankruptcy that dealt strictly with market manipulation and excess debt that needed refinancing. This bankruptcy is more fundamental because we contemplated the replacement of the monopoly utility as we know it today. And our statutory authority to replace it full clock is lacking. Fortunately today, through the governor's leadership and the legislative leadership, we have Senator Hill's bill, SB 350, that will soon provide us as a state the tools to replace PG&E with a customer-elected public option should they fail. This bill would give ratepayers a genuine alternative. If PG&E fails to provide safe, reliable, and affordable energy, then the Commission could petition the court to appoint a receiver, or the Commission could revoke the PG&E CPCN, and most importantly, if it does either of those, we now have a real backstop alternative, the Golden State Energy, a nonprofit public benefit corporation, which would have as its mission the provision of gas and electric service for the benefit of all Californians and its territories. The reforms to the regulatory compact do not only change the structural organization reforms put forward here that you've so eloquently highlighted, such as the executive comp incentives, the regionalization of the organization itself, and their California-led board makeup. But it also changes us as a commission. The role of our commission is fundamentally changed by these reforms. No longer are we expected to wait on the leadership of the utility and fine them for the failure to act, but we ourselves have to prevent continued failure and trigger intervention. including replacing PG&E if needed to prevent another catastrophe. Ultimately, it is this real threat replacement that SB 350 provides that allows me to have the realistic expectation that PG&E will perform and meet its obligations under this reorganization. Finally, although we do find that this plan meets the rate neutrality required as a result of this reorganization, the greatest challenge will be to maintain affordability as we move forward and require greater investment for ensuring safe and resilient electricity and gas service, especially given the economic realities of California, given the COVID crisis. The future post-bankruptcy leadership of PG&E will require great efficiency, collaboration, and innovation to meet the challenge of updating the infrastructure of the failing system while maintaining affordable energy bills. The challenge is immense, and with this vote, we grant the challenging opportunity to the restructured PG&E. But if they fail, we will finally have tools to replace it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Guzman Aceves. Commissioner Shiroma?
Yes, thank you, Badger. I want to thank the public who took their precious time to write us emails and share comments in person at various commission meetings, really over the last 18 months, and including last Thursday and today. I appreciate hearing directly from so many of you on this very important item. I hear the frustration, I share it. Too many years of PG&E misplacing priorities and neglecting the basic and precious foundation of the infrastructure of their utility that provides such an essential service. In taking on the role of commissioner last year, I recognize the enormity of the challenges faced by the PUC. Devastating wildfires, devastating families, PG&E in bankruptcy, and rating agencies covering. My priorities then and now are that the victims be compensated fairly, that customers have access to safe, reliable, affordable, and excellent service, that we continue to make progress on our climate change goals, and that attention is paid, especially to those customers with less needs. Now, I reviewed the proposed decision, the CPUC proposed decision. I know there was a lot of reference to the PG&E plan. Here, we are looking at adoption of the CPUC decision. I reviewed that decision through those lenses I just outlined, and I will be supporting the proposed decision. I appreciate that a number of revisions were made to the proposed decision in response to comments, including revisions to the key steps, 6 steps, which could lead to revoking PG&E's authorities to operate, revoking their permits under some very specific circumstances. Right? The provisions in the decision overall, in my view, enhance safety and accountability. And our oversight does not end here. And several commissioners referred to our follow-on proceedings and specifically the safety culture proceeding, and there are others. The CSPS decision that we just adopted out also adds to the bolstering of what we are requiring from PG&E. I would like to, in conclusion, basically thank President Batjer, Commissioner Rechtschaffen, Judge Allen, the parties and the many staff who have worked on this decision over many, many months, and others have spoken to that. I would also, as one of our commenters said today about the employees at PG&E, that in the aftermath of the Loma Prieta earthquake in 1989, that her relative was helped by a PG&E employee who despite the devastation, was still at work. And so, as the Rechtschaffen also alluded to, I want to thank rank and file, utility and energy workers, PG&E, of course, at all utilities, because they are the ones that are on the line, going to work every day to keep the system operating. I mean, on a day like today, it's 100 degrees in Sacramento. It's been a heat wave. When you think about a devastating storm, wind, rain, so forth, these workers are out there repairing lines and helping individual households and customers. So I do also want to thank them. So I will be supporting the proposed decision. It's been a long haul, and we're not done yet. This is a milestone, as President Batjer said, and we have more to do upon the adoption of this proposed decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you to all my fellow commissioners for those very rich and important comments. Again, thank you to my Bagley team partner and ally on this march that we started in October. And you're right, I still feel like a newbie. And boy, those days, although seem quite some time ago, we've come a very long way. And I thank you all for all of your attention to detail, your thoughtfulness, your deep thinking that helped get us to this point today. So with that, will the agenda clerk please call the roll?
For item 48, Commissioner Shiroma.
Aye.
Commissioner Guzman Aceves.
Aye.
Commissioner Randolph.
Aye.
Commissioner Rechtschaffen.
Aye.
And President Batjer.
Aye. Thank you. The vote for item 48, reorganization plan of Pacific Gas and Electric Company, is unanimous. Thank you all very much.